truth, pressure, and the necessity to begin again, maybe? We are talking about the Sagittarius New Moon and Solstice portal happening December 19th through the 21st of 2025. Hello and welcome to the Feature Wild podcast and Wildly Rooted Spirit over here on YouTube if you're watching on video. I'm Vanessa Rodriguez, clinically trained healer and Akashic channel, here to support my other beautiful heart-centered soul-led healers who are here to not only become the medicine that they came here to carry and to share with the world, but to understand their intuitive gifts, to really tap into their channel and to root into a kind of spiritual sovereignty that touches everything, their work, their relationships, their purpose. And astrology, these moon musings, are very helpful in these times in assisting us navigating the collective experience, right? And these cycles within our own lives. And if you are calling to do this and journey inside of a community, I invite you into Bloom, my private sanctuary for intuitive healers, where we will be diving into a sadhana-style experience starting at the very beginning of the new year in January. It's a 28-day experience called the Intuitive Clarity Lab. This is happening inside of my community, Bloom. And this experience is for intuitive healers who are ready to access clear answers on demand without overthinking or collecting more trainings or doing that 90-minute practice daily that you know you're going to drop after a week. So you can really trust your intuition when it counts. I'm so excited for that. We are gearing up. We're already talking about it and diving into certain practices inside the group. And later today, if you're listening on Friday, December 19th, I am hosting my monthly live Akashic Q&A. This is where you can come on, ask me questions, and I open up your Akashic records and tune in for you. This is an amazing intuitive coaching, but also this is a way to connect and plug in with your own intuitive channel. We have our other members who show up and also share what's coming through for them that is supportive for you. So if all of that sounds like your flavor, your vibe, then come on over. All links are in the show notes. We'd love to see you inside. Now, this Sagittarius New Moon is happening today, December 19th, or December 20th, depending on where you are in the world. And it's happening at 28 degrees of Sagittarius. And this one feels really cosmically amplified, if I'll put it that way. We will get into what exactly that means. But it also feels future-oriented. And there is, I'm not going to sugarcoat, there is some real pressure that we may be experiencing with this particular new moon and the flavor of this lunation. So we're going to talk about Saturn and that Saturn pressure and the way that it may show up already, because we're already moving through this Saturnian kind of pressure in other ways. But it may show up as you're just tired. You're tired, maybe fatigue. Things are ending. Maybe there's some sobering clarity rather than some exuberance in it with that clarity. But ultimately, this does feel like it's a turning point, that even if you may not have consciously chosen it, it's one that is here for you and that we can navigate and together in the highest way. So we're going to talk about ways to do that. So we have this new moon happening, December 19th today. And then we have our Capricorn solstice, the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere, happening on the 21st. So this moon is really setting up the stage for this shift into Capricorn season. And leading up to this, we had Mars, who was in Sagittarius and squaring Neptune, and that felt kind of weird. And then finally moving into Capricorn this week. And Mars, even though Mars is the malefic, loves being in Capricorn, exalted in Capricorn. And so that energy, it feels like we're able to do something with that energy. However, we still got this square energy and pressure. So let's get into what this looks like. Right now, the heart of this new moon at 28 degrees Sagittarius is that it is conjunct what's called the Galactic Center. Now, interestingly, like the primary form of astrology that I practice and that I utilize, it's rooted in traditional Hellenistic astrology, but I weave in modern elements. And this is one of the modern elements that I weave in as it relates to this concept of the galactic center and how it informs or influences these planets that are there around that particular center. So the galactic center is essentially the core of the galaxy. It's a source of immense creative life force energy and informational energy. So this is a new moon, when that means that the sun and moon are in the same point, the same degree and position. And in new moons, we plant seeds, right? We plant intentions. We may start something new. And this feels like this one is planting at a cosmic root level. This feels definitely more collective and weaving in your story within the greater collective story. So what can this look like? Well, as someone who has prominent placements conjunct the Galactic Center, and I have worked with other people and healers who also have planets near the Galactic Center. And what I have found and experienced in my own life is that there definitely is a stream, a stream of energy that is constant, that feels from beyond this world and more than this world. And there's also an intuitive and ethereal quality to that. So what does that actually mean and look like? Well, it can look like truths that you kind of tap into, but you may not fully have words for, but it's almost like a knowing, an inner knowing. It's also this being moved by creation, almost like you're being pulled by future timelines, and that time may bend for you. Like time, like what is even time? Timelines bleeding into each other, the future and the present. And there's also this general pull toward freedom. I mean, here we are talking about Sagittarius, after all, the sign that is very much connected to freedom, to authenticity, to sovereignty, to truth, to higher wisdom and learning. And so we have those energies at play as well with this Sagittarius placement and where the Galactic Center is. Sagittarius reminds us that everything is interconnected. And joy and meaning are creative and evolutionary forces in our lives and in this world. Life wants to move forward. But there's something here around certain truths. In order for life to move forward, there's certain things that feel like they're just not, you can't take them with you in that future timeline, in that exalted vision of what you hope your life becomes or this world becomes. And so even without this Saturnian pressure, this placement, we're going to talk about the Decan of where this new moon is happening because it's significant. It's not a very comfortable one. And again, I could speak from lived experience of this, and I'll share the ways that it can show up in our lives as well, especially for those of you who have placements here. But right now, it pertains to all of us because of this lunation that's happening here. So when we're planting these seeds, we're rooting into the energy of this new moon, just like keeping that in your heart and your mind. Let's talk about Saturn. So Saturn is the gatekeeper here of this new moon. Saturn is at 25 degrees of Pisces, squaring this lunation. And this is the part that a lot of people are going to feel. So in traditional terms, Saturn is a malefic. Saturn is the time lord who is kind of the hard ass, the taskmaster. And Saturn can harm, in traditional terms, can harm the luminaries, so the sun and the moon, by a square. So that's the particular geometry and the aspect that we have here. Squares can cause tension. It's almost like putting the brakes or a stop sign. Do not pass go kind of energy. So again, it's like this sobering pressure kind of energy that we might be feeling here, because typically, like with Sagittarian energy, we that's that mutable fire. So we can feel really lit up, right? And we could be fired up about a particular project or mission or your why. And this pressure from Saturn feels like there is more work to be done here. Like the toil and work with Saturn is real. So this new moon may feel like there's something here that we're navigating where there's limitations or potential loss. And again, like exhaustion or fatigue, like you've been on the marathon with something, whatever it is. So it may express itself as like, a situation where you're like, oh, well, that didn't work out. Like, got to figure that out. I guess I can't keep doing it in this way. I'm really tired, but I have to begin again. I have to keep going. So this doesn't feel like, a shiny, fresh start, like we would like a new moon to feel, although it does feel very active and activating. So it's kind of like these two energies, this like push-pull that can cause some tension. The other piece here in relation to the cosmic element and component is that this is happening at the same time that an interstellar object, 3i Atlas, is closest to the Earth. And there isn't full consensus on what exactly this interstellar object is. A lot in the spiritual spaces, what I'm gathering and hearing from others is that they're feeling like this is actually a positive thing for the collective on Earth. And I think it's interesting that it's also happening at this new moon that is conjunct the Galactic Center. Also interestingly, and I don't have these pulled up, but one of my favorite astrologers, Lori Lothian, if you haven't checked her out on YouTube, Lunatic Astrology, I believe, is her handle. But Lori Lothian, she is phenomenal. She's amazing. And she talks about some specific asteroids that essentially depict this like cosmic orientation, a star falling from the sky. And so it's like when in astrology, typically we look at when there's something that's of importance or significance or like a theme that's popping out, it usually shows up at least three times. So there's a pattern of 3. So we're seeing that here in connection to this. What does it all mean? Well, I can tap into the records maybe in the future or later today. But I don't have an answer for you, to be completely honest. And I am usually of the orientation that these bigger collective things that are happening, there are many people who channel what is happening, and I'm not saying that they're right or wrong, but what I have seen in the past is that everybody has different answers. Everybody may be channeling something different. It doesn't mean that each of them are wrong. They could be just channeling based off of their filter and orientation, what they need to say, right? What the message that needs to come through them is. And so I like to really allow you to tap in and tune in for yourself, to build that intuitive authorship and authority within yourself. And so tune into the energy of this moon. It is my belief that we are here to remember our intuitive gifts and our channel, our higher faculties, to cultivate our higher intuitive faculties so that we can remember how we originally came in this earth school. and how we were designed in our wildness, hence feed your wild, which is operating from the magical mind rather than this very limited, analytical, materialistic mental realm and mind. So I'll just leave it at that. I want you to tune into this energy of this new moon and everything that's happening on cosmically and what that brings up within you. This new moon does feel like it's, for many people, an ending of something, and something that needs to end in order for something else to begin. This sun and moon, the sun and moon are separating from Saturn, from that square with Saturn. And they're carrying this story forward as they move into Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn. So there's something here around like, rather than seeing this pressure and this sort of stop sign or detour from Saturn as a bad thing, how can we see it as like Saturn is actually like the hard ass coach who is preparing me for being my best and leveling up in this next chapter that is to come. And I feel like things feel better when everything starts to move into Capricorn, because I'm gonna show you some of the other planets that are moving through as well. But let's talk about Jupiter for a moment. So Jupiter is the ruler of this lunation. Jupiter rules a Sagittarius, and Jupiter is currently exalted in the sign of Cancer. However, Jupiter is retrograde, and Jupiter is averse to this lunation, meaning where Jupiter is in the sky cannot see. There's no clean aspect in a traditional sense, cannot see this lunation, the sun and the moon. So even though Jupiter may have some goods available in his exaltation, maybe retrograde is like not as much, but he can't give the resources to the sun and moon as much as he would like. And that's kind of how this feels. So the other thing, though, that we have going for us is that there is a mutual reception. So the moon, the sun and moon are in Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is in Cancer. Cancer is ruled by the moon. So we have that mutual reception with the moon and Jupiter. So there is kind of like this maybe telepathic connection, even if they can't see each other. And the way that we might feel this is an expansion of emotional tending to the emotions and the inner realms and self-care and nourishment as we move through what we're going through with the Sagittarius new moon. So the support may not feel as obvious, but I feel like it really is calling us to remember our own powers of deep self-care, and not in a kind of like cute Instagram ready way, but like in a very real, tangible, and sustainable way. And what does that look like for you? I feel like that's a theme, a recurring theme with Jupiter in Cancer anyway. Coming back to Saturn, we have this Saturn-Neptune conjunction that we've been talking about for quite some time. And this is like the dream must become real or it dissolves. And so Saturn and Neptune, they're in the late degrees of Pisces, and they're both squaring this lunation, the Sag new moon. So other themes that can pop up with Neptune in the mix are, well, maybe illusions dissolving, any illusions that you had of something working out, that bubble popping. Disillusionment as an initiation. So like maybe you're disillusioned by something and that gets you, it lights you up in a way that almost acts as a kind of initiation. Along with illusions dissolving, this is like, again, the bubble bursting or popping, the collapse of any fantasies, or if you've been upholding people or systems like saviors, gurus. Jupiter is the guru. So it's like there's something here around remembering your power as these bubbles burst or these illusions dissolve, and maybe even awakening even deeper into like the fact that there are certain outdated systems that are no longer viable, or maybe were always harmful to begin with. So this is a kind of refinement and maturation. Like, it doesn't feel like a failure. It feels like a kind of maturation, and this is our growth edge, right? But the thing is, we can't move forward and carry old identities into the next phase. And that has been another recurring theme. And if you've been listening to me, I've been talking about this a lot. I even have I have a course on this. Dissolving old identities that you cannot take with you, because they are ultimately pulling the strings of the show that is your lived reality. So as much as you consciously want to change, want to go on that path, want to do that thing, want to like XYZ, there are these old identities that are at the throne of our belief architecture at the subconscious level that make it very difficult and challenging to do so. So the other thing that I see here is like Saturn and Neptune helping us to dissolve all that shit too, right? Like the belief architecture, the old identities, the misaligned identities, the adopted identities that were never even yours to begin with, those going away. So how can we work with the energy of this Saturn Neptune? As much as like there's certain things in our reality we may feel like wah wah, but how can that also be an opportunity and use this energy to support us in a deeper way? So let's talk about the Decan of this new moon. This new moon falls in Sagittarius 3, and this Decan is ruled by Sun and Saturn. Here we go again with Saturn. So Sun is connected with life force energy, the soul, glory, visibility. And Saturn is here with the limitations, with gravity, with weight, and consequence. So it feels like this is a consequential moon. And this Decan carries this, it's like baked into this Decan that not all victories and successes come easily or are light. Like even if you reach the end of the race and you're like, whew, was it really worth it? Which is something that we probably should have been asking much earlier in the race, right? Also that some paths are forged through hardship and endurance. And we see that as a very real thing. But is it necessary? I don't know. Within this Decan, there's also this kind of hunger for recognition or significance or like up-leveling, exaltation. And simultaneously, this potential belief that whatever is seen as significant or successful, in order to be exalted and to be recognized, like you have to work hard and earn it, right? Sometimes through hardship. And again, with significant placements there, I have had to, those have been so huge in my belief architecture, because it's like literally embedded, but doesn't mean that we have to journey with it and carry it forward for the rest of our lives. No. But I come from a lineage and a family of immigrants, as many of us do. And my parents in particular really instilled in us early on, you have to work hard for what you want. Life does not come easy. And my dad even has his own saying of work is the celebration of life. Now, I would agree with that if you actually love your work and it's your soul work and doesn't feel like work, then that's a celebration of life. But toil, maybe Saturn would say toil is a celebration of life, right? So there's that energy here that's part of this flavor of this new moon. The sun wants that expression and that purpose and that visibility, but then Saturn is imposing those limits and those boundaries and those reality checks. It's not that they're diametrically opposed or enemies, but they're in a dialogue, and they're both teachers. They ask us, like, is this worth it? What is worth striving for? And is this actually a choice? Like, to continue to endure and toil? Like, do you have to do that? Like, is that actually a belief that is true? And very importantly, what is not worth all of the sweat, blood, tears, energy, the currency of your attention? What is not worth it? And maybe not worth it anymore. Maybe it's just past its expiration date. So those who have placements here, and also like with this lunation as we journey through it collectively, we're being invited to take a look at what we might consider burdens or challenging experiences that we can choose to bear, to continue to bear until the end, because it is ultimately worth it. Like, if the worst thing happened in pursuit of the thing that you desire, would it still be worth it? That's a good question to ask yourself. And which are not worthy of that level of will and endurance. So with this, pay attention and watch out for these almost automatic thoughts and beliefs of, I have to work hard in order to XYZ, to achieve XYZ. Or equating hardship with worthiness, which is a really huge one that I had to navigate through and dissolve. Or that believing that ease means cheating or failure, you're doing it wrong, because life's not supposed to be easy. Or, achieving XYZ is not supposed to be easy. Or burning out, that you have a pattern of burning out in pursuit of something. And in this deck in particular, in pursuit of like your worth, meaning, and recognition. Or maybe over-identifying with struggle and almost acting as if like that's proof of your devotion. So that's called martyrdom. We have to watch out for that as healers. I see this so often, like wearing the struggle and the pain and the challenges as a badge of honor, proof of devotion. I'm still in it. I'm toiling away. Do we really want to live in that story anymore? So this is when we got to remember when to stop. Where is the line? Where is the line? And knowing what your limits are. Limits are not bad. Limits are not a failure. They're a form of intelligence. We have programmed limits within our physiology. I mean, like programmed cell death, for example, right? To prevent overgrowth. Jupiter is the planet of abundance and expansion and overgrowth. But you can have too much of a good thing. You can have too much of too much. And so if we go and go and go and go and go forever, we're going to combust. We're going to burn out. One last piece I want to mention with the benefics is Venus. So we have Venus here, who feels like she's attempting to be a kind of balm, like a healing balm, but she can't quite do what she wants to do here. She's at 24 degrees of Sagittarius. So she is approaching this square to Saturn and Neptune, and she's also combust, which means that she's close to the sun. She's weakened by the rays of the sun in traditional astrology speak. So even though she has good intentions, she wants to soothe. I feel that she can't quite fully be the Venusian balm and healing remedy that she would like. So maybe it just feels a little bit harder to feel joy and pleasure. Maybe the relationships might feel a little bit more strained or unsupported in this time. maybe creativity, like you feel the energy of the creativity. It's almost here, it wants to come through, but it's like not quite fully. So I just want to name that and speak to that. I know that I'm feeling that as well. It feels like there's a lot of energy potential, but there's also that, like, again, kind of like detour or stop sign. And so it's just remembering to be in the flow, to honor the energy, that we don't know better, even if we think like, no, it has to happen now, or I have to forge through, right? I will force this to happen. And sometimes it just doesn't work that way. So be attentive to your body because your body is going to tell you, your body is going to ask for what she needs. And usually it's sun and hydration and gentle movement and just good food, not pushing through. So be gentle. Then we move into the solstice on December 21st, where the sun enters Capricorn and then Venus squares Saturn. But we're having, so with Capricorn season, we're feeling maybe more sober, but more strategic with Mars in Capricorn. Like it feels like, all right, I got this energy though of like action and I can get shit done. But it may feel a bit more grounded and less optimistic. Like Jupiter and Sagittarius, like even though that Decan feels heavy, there's still a kind of that optimism, and maybe that illusion, too much optimism can lead to burnout at times. But we do see the sun and the moon are leaving that square, even though the moon goes into detriment in Capricorn, like it's leaving the square with Saturn. And it's taking that information that it received from Saturn into the sign one of the signs that Saturn rules. So it feels like it becomes a more cooperative relationship with Saturn. And Venus then moves into Capricorn on the 24th, on Christmas Eve. And she has more dignity here. It feels like her ability to support us through joy, through pleasure, is more attainable, but it's like also more practical, and she could be devoted here in practicality as well. So it feels good. It feels good to me. At least it feels a little bit better than this sort of pressurized time here. Before we move into the medical astrology piece, I just like a quick overarching energetic attunement to like the years. So 2025, moving from 2025 to 2026, and then like feeling into 2027 in the future. 2025 has felt like a year of endings. Absolutely. It is a 9-year, which is a year of endings. And 2026 is a year of beginnings. And it's almost like this chrysalis time that we are in right now can really feel uncomfortable because the new isn't quite here yet, but the old is like, you're like, yeah, that's not coming with. So now what? I see that a lot for some people. Or a lot of planning, like an energy for what's going to come, especially in the spring in 2026, but not being able to fully move the needle just yet. And then 2027 feels like kind of this stabilization of these energies and like a reconfiguration or integration of all the things. So we'll see what that feels like and pans out to be. But it does feel like this new moon marks sort of the first wave of this 2026 energy, like leaving behind the stuff that we can't take forward. So looking at the medical astrology piece very quickly, because I felt called to speak to one particular planet ally, but we're looking at Jupiter and Sagittarius. So Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter and is a mutable fire sign. When we look at the tissue states of through the lens of energetics, the energetic system of Western herbalism and traditional Western herbalism, the tissue state that is connected to Sagittarius that may be like in like an imbalanced or weakened tissue state would be dry tissue, atrophy, dry atrophy, as well as hot excitation. And we see that because mutable fire, like there's a tendency for inflammation and too much fire moving through. And like that movement of, I got like all this fire and I'm not quite sure what to do with it. So that can dry out the system and cause inflammation. And the body systems in connection with Jupiter and Sagittarius are the hips, the thighs, the lower body, the butt. The sciatic nerve is a really big one. I used to journey with this for so long. The lower spine and lower back lumbar area, as well as the liver. So the liver very much being connected with Jupiter. So when we look at imbalances or diseases that are connected with an imbalanced and weakened Jupiter or Sagittarius, we see potential accidents and injuries, like sports-related injuries. Sagittarius is very much connected with sports and athleticism, and also horse-related injuries with the centaur connected with Sagittarius, but also things that are happening in the lower region. So low back problems, sciatica I'd mentioned, issues with the muscles, inflammation in general in the back and in muscles. You have like with that inflammation fever that is caused by heat in the liver and hot blood. So speaking of liver, any kind of liver issues here. Liver fire rising is something that is more through the lens of TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, but I see that manifest as migraine and headache. So while it may look like headache, and not to say that all headaches are caused by the imbalance with the liver, but liver fire rising is. And so it's because of that fire in the liver that like is just overheating and needs to go somewhere. So then it goes to our head. And so having to really look at the liver. And of course, when the liver is imbalanced, we see imbalances systemically because the liver is such a key part of the body with hormone regulation, with digestion, and with immunity. There's just so much in connection there. So supporting the liver always is a good idea, no matter what. One of my favorite ways of supporting the liver is with castor oil packs. And I know for many of my healers, that's an OG remedy, oldie but goodie, and we still use it in our household a lot. And for those of you who are not familiar with that, I highly recommend you just Google castor oil packs and check that out. Remedies for weakened and imbalanced Sagittarius or Jupiter, we want to look at the cooling remedies that are going to quench that fire, anti-inflammatory foods and herbs and moistening herbs and foods, as well as anything that's really helpful topically for traumas, like arnica is one example. Liver tonics, of course, are going to be really great and beautiful here. So paying attention to liver health and just sort of moderation in a lot of things, taking it easy, because the Sagittarian like exuberance and going for it can sometimes we just do too much. And we have to slow down. So when we look at plant allies and herbs, like remedy and guardian herbs, I had mentioned arnica, willow, yellow dock, like for liver is really great. Yellow dock is one of my favorites for the colon, also in digestion. Agrimony, I've spoken of agrimony in a previous episode, but today I wanted to talk about dandelion. And I know I've talked about dandelion before, but there's so much to say about every single herb and plant that you can literally have multiple episodes just on each plant alone. Today, I want to talk about dandelion and Jupiter. So dandelion is a Jupiter medicine. A lot of people think that dandelion is a solar medicine, is ruled by the sun, because of course it's like sunny. We see dandelion as like this bright, beautiful yellow flower. But that is actually a Jupiter plant. And that matters for this new moon because Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter and the Jupiter themes are pretty loud right now. And Jupiter expands everything it touches. Jupiter has no boundaries. It's a limitless planet. And it doesn't naturally know when to stop, right? So I had mentioned this before, like people who are strongly under Jupiter's influence, either constitutionally or by transit, often set very high expectations for themselves. They set the bar really high, right? They carry big goals, big visions, big dreams. And they may say yes to most of what life presents over and over. So this is part of Jupiter's gift, but when it's unchecked, Jupiter becomes excess. And, there's, for example, toxic positivity. There's a part where and I say we because I am a Jupiter-ruled being. So all of that, everything that I'm saying, I'm telling you from lived experience. We can avoid the important lessons and things in life and like our body speaking to us because of what we perceive as like expansion or saying yes, right? Like the inability to, or unwillingness to look at something in a more, I wouldn't say negative light, but like discerning light, as Saturn would have us do. Putting ourselves in check. I know that there was for periods of my life where I was unchecked, and I saw that as a good thing. But I definitely, life events have definitely brought a lot of sobering lessons for me. And I see that also for others ruled by Jupiter. So when Jupiter goes too far, when that energy becomes excessive, again, it could look like pushing yourself too hard, overworking, and like a workaholism, overextending yourself, placing impossible high standards on yourself, trying to make those big dreams happen like right now, immediately, let's go. And again, this can lead to like burnout rather than fulfillment. And so this is the classic pattern associated with the dandelion flower essence. And it's why dandelion is such a beautiful Jupiterian ally. And Jupiter rules the liver, along with fats and oils and digestion through bile and the body's ability to process richness and abundance. So when Jupiter's out of balance, it can show up as overindulgence in food and drink, hello holiday season, an excess of any kind, and an overburdened and overstressed liver. So dandelion is like the perfect quintessential ally here. Meets Jupiter exactly where he tends to break us down. And so many of the yellow-colored medicinal plants, the flowers, and those plants are bitter tonics. So bitter tonics have a strong affinity for the liver, and dandelion belongs to this group along with some other bitter yellow plants. And that yellow is connected to the bile. And the bile is how the body digests fats and oils, richness. It breaks down those fats and processes excess stuff that we got going on there. It keeps things moving as well instead of staying stagnant. So it really allows the digestion process and metabolism. Like it keeps things going there. I have seen on a spiritual level, bile incredibly important. Incredibly important. The liver is also where we hold a lot of anger, as well as other things. It does so much processing, but the bile is like, you can even see it as this spiritual river, this like solution that helps to emulsify a lot of these emotions and energies that we are holding that have been stagnant, and allows us to process them. So it's not just on a physiological level. That's what I have tuned into when I have tuned into bitter and working with clients in the past. So bitter, speaking of bitters, and I meant bile if I said bitter. But speaking of bitter and bitter foods and bitter herbs and flowers, the bitterness of dandelion isn't super harsh. You know, there are some really bitter plants, but dandelion is a bit more grounding. The bitterness, the grounding bitterness that dandelion has helps to counteract Jupiter's tendency to just like float too far out. I think I spoke in the last, maybe it was the last Moon Musing, about Tulsi and how like, oh, I adore Tulsi. Tulsi is also a Jupiter plant. And I just like Tulsi I just love it so much. Yeah. And yet, because I am such a like Jupiterian kind of energy floating away type of person, it doesn't, most varietals of Tulsi do not support me in anchoring back into my body. Dandelion does. Dandelion does. It helps people to slow down, to pace themselves, to cultivate the resilience. Dandelion is so freaking resilient and strong. And Dandelion plays the long game. You know? Also, Dandelion, like, we have those very strong earthy roots, but we also have the floaty dandelion seeds. So there's like this both rooting down and then allowing yourself to disperse. But it starts with the roots. And so that's where I love working with dandelion roots specifically, especially if we're maybe drinking coffee. If you're taking a break from that for a little bit, bringing in some dandelion root instead can be really lovely to support your liver and also energetically for grounding. To wrap that part up, it feels like maybe bring in some dandelion flower essence and dandelion root along with this new moon to help with whatever pressure that you may be dealing with right now and what you learn through that pressure, the limitations, right? And so dandelion can help us to live with limits and see them as creative constraints that are actually helpful and supportive for us, and how to grow without burning out and collapsing and combusting. So dandelion isn't going to shrink you. You know, dandelion is not afraid to be seen in that visibility and to expand, but it's about longevity and resilience. And so I feel taking these lessons from dandelion is in that way of like communing with the plant ally, and consumption of dandelion can be really supportive for you in this time. With that, let's get into our all signs Akashic Oracle reading. And for this portion, I'm going to be using the Herbal Astrology Oracle deck by Adriana Ayales. I love this deck. I used to use it for bringing in a plant ally, but today, because of this like herbal astrology is like so Jupiterian, Sagittarian, like kind of out there, that I felt called to use this to pull for each sign. So for this portion, please tune into your rising and or your sun sign. Just as a reminder, your rising sign is like the avatar that you are playing in this life, in this earth school. It's the character you're playing on the stage of life. And so a lot of what I'm going to share may relate to you in a very real, tangible way connected to your rising sign. Whereas your sun sign is more of your essential core self, your soul, and related to your purpose, your path, perhaps your calling and your career, if your career is a part of your soul work. And so if you're living more through your soul, your sun, then tune into your sun sign, because there's probably stuff in connection with that as well. And as a reminder, with all of these, I'm opening up the Akashic Records for the collective field. And if you don't want to participate, you could just stop watching right now, and that's perfectly fine. And if you're tuning in, I really encourage you to take what resonates and leave what doesn't. I just want whatever is most helpful for you to come through and go through the filter that is your heart and your inner knowing. Okay, Aries. We have Purification, Cat's Claw, and I love this for you. Here's this card. If you're watching the video, such beautiful cards that Adriana has created. I forgot the illustrator's name. I'll bring that up in a moment. But there's Cat's Claw. Okay, and Cat's Claw here is ruled by Mars and Pluto. So Mars is the ruler of your sign, Aries. And I love this panther energy. Here we go again with yellow flowers. Cat's claw. Okay. Purification. Let me tune in and see what we get. Aries, you are getting ready to do some big stuff. This next year, it feels like I feel your fire. It's not quite like, oh, torch is lit and you are running with it. It feels like you have the plethora of the Kindle, and it's like the fire is getting started and it's about to roll very soon, not quite yet. And part of that not yet is like, it's not like a want, although, I talked about how this like Saturnian square may feel in that pressure. But with the purification piece, this is again about like a purging and a clearing of the stuff that you cannot take with you, of anything that is not you, the not self, of like energies, attachments, emotions that you have. But like, I just see your liver working through other people's emotions. No. It was so interesting because I feel like this came up in a conversation actually in one of our Oracle practice circles inside of my community Bloom. And so like it is totally related to this. There's something here around what is purification? Purification is the clearing of the not self as it relates to you in this reading, Aries. And so this purification process is also like clear through that clearing. All of a sudden, you have this space for everything that wants to come through. This highest timeline is like able to land in your field, in your experience, in your reality. And also, you're able to like feel and hear and see more clearly. And so it's almost like in order to forge that path that you're about to like light up and go, that clearing process, that purification process is really necessary. And there's a utility with that. And so I'm asking like some of the ways that can, like you can actually engage in that, or like what does that look like for her? In any way that you're feeling, oh, this is not serving me, like a thought that comes through. What? No, I'm not doing that anymore. That is not mine. Right? Purification when it comes to the voice and the throat. The Vishuddha, the throat chakra, is very much about purification. So that the heart, the fire from the heart and the energy from the heart and the air from the our heart can come through, and the medicine can come through your words and expression. So you're about to get into like, I feel a lot of expression from you in 2026. But you got to clear the pathway for that. So this is the time. And any practices that you really feel called to, I'm getting a lot of like physical stuff, physicality. So like if you could do some spa stuff would be awesome. Like, clearing, I'm getting like a sound bath even. I'm seeing you getting, like if you want to, even move through detoxification in some way. That feels really good because the physical part feels very important for you. But there's also like your space. Like I'm feeling like, feng shuiing things up, clearing your space, clearing your calendar, clearing, like getting new journals, it's just preparing yourself and like pressing a reset button on some of these things. So in addition to, of course, any of the energetic and spiritual practices that feel really good for you. And like I'm just seeing even in terms of like certain energies, calling in certain cleansing energies, stones, Reiki, like all of that can be really helpful too. All right, so I'm excited for you, Aries. You got something going on there. All right, so next we have Taurus. Taurus, we are looking this Akashic Oracle reading for your sun and or rising sign. And we have, of course, Rose. Rose, and love. Look at that beautiful rose. Okay, so of course, ruled by Venus, your planet. I love this because Aries got Mars and you got Venus. I'm loving this. And the moon. Working with the moon and Venus here with this lunation. Oh, even if Venus can't really give the kind of love that she wants right now because of her position, she's going to moving into Capricorn season, Christmas Eve, December 24th. But here, let's tune in to Rose and love for you. And if you are wanting to look, if you're listening to the audio podcast only, these cards are so beautiful. I highly recommend you check out the YouTube video. Okay, tuning in. This really feels like, Taurus, rekindling that connection to Venus as your planet, but the innate capacity for love and harmony that you have in your own design. There's something here about the love, the love that is cultivated within a kind of divine love. Yes, it could be in relationship, and we see that reflected and extended in our reality within our relational dynamics, right? Like our partners and just those that we love and we have a love relationship with. But it starts within, and I'm getting this wooing of the self, of taking yourself out on dates, of bringing in the yummy, juicy stuff that you love at this time, because there's something that is expanding your heart field for a deeper love that wants to be expressed inside and out. Because I feel like partnership here, whether that is romantic partner or spouse, or even platonic business partner, there's something here love for those that you serve or your clients one-on-one. This feels very seventh housey. And so it feels but it starts within. So how can you make it yummy and juicy and work with this new moon to part of that self-care that I was talking about before with the kind of pressure that you may be experiencing is weaving in the love, maybe even connecting with rose, taking some rose essence, a bath with rose, a foot bath with rose petals, taking a tincture of rose, smelling rose, having roses in your house. And if you're not super into rose or they're not accessible for you, just connecting with the spirit of rose and that Venusian quality through her. And I'm also getting... Oh, yeah. So connecting in, if you can even just look at a picture of rose, if you can't have a rose in your house, and attune to, it's almost like you lose yourself through a soft gaze, losing yourself. It's almost like scrying with rose, if that makes sense. So water scrying or fire scrying, where fire gazing or gazing with rose. And then rose takes you on a journey. That's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing you connecting with rose, in all the sensual ways that you love, smelling, touching, maybe even tasting one of her petals, and then allowing yourself to be taken on the journey and guided by rose into this pathway that she takes you on when you gaze. And it's not about losing yourself in it. It's about allowing yourself to shift that consciousness so that your spirit can then, your consciousness can move with rose, and she can teach you, she can show you, she could share the messages. So that's what I'm getting for you. And I'm excited for that journey. Let us know how it goes. Gemini, you are next. So we're tapping into this Akashic Oracle reading. Please tune into your rising and or sun sign. And Gemini... Ooh, we got number 44, Valerian. If you are listening to the audio podcast only, I encourage you to tune into the YouTube video because of these beautiful pictures. But here, Valerian, and the key word here is acceptance. And I love that it's the number 44. There's something significant about that. Valerian here being ruled by Neptune. So let me tune in for you. There's something about... In order to move through this time in the highest way, Gemini, it's not through the mind. It's not through the talking. It's not through like the activity, the talking, the mental. It's not there. It's in the body. It's in the dream space. It's in your nervous system, but in a relaxed, regulated nervous system. And there's like this, there is something there for you that, and speaking of that Neptune, so like even if we think of this like Saturn-Neptune conjunction and that square that we're feeling with this lunation, with Valerian being connected with Neptune, there's something here more related to, yes, we may have those Saturnian pressures that I talked about earlier, but this feels more connected to like a Neptunian dreamlike vision quest of some sort that you're going to go through. And the portal is through yourself, your nervous system, through deep relaxation. Valerian is really supportive for deep relaxation. Also for pain management, for sleeping, for helping with sleeping. So there's something here with quieting the mental realm, the mind, the chatter. And allowing yourself to fall deeply into that yummy dream space. The softness through your animal body and into a higher level of consciousness that is beyond the thinking, analytical, strategic, logical mind. Mercury is also in Sagittarius here. So Mercury, your ruling your sign, wants truth, wants expansion, but is also in detriment here. In Sagittarius. I personally love a Mercury in Sagittarius. My son has this placement. I adore Mercury in Sagittarius. But when it comes to like what you might be more attuned to or used to, unless like you yourself have a Mercury in Sagittarius and you know what I'm talking about, Mercury likes the agility, likes the details, likes to get small, right? And so there's like a quickness also, and it's like, whereas Sagittarius is really getting you to like, what's the big picture, big vision? And it's not so much about like getting into the minutia and the details and the chit chat chatter. It's about like getting lost, actually, is what I'm hearing. Allow yourself to get lost and to be lost. What comes up for you when that happens? Maybe working with Valerian also, if you're having any kind of sleep issues or trouble sleeping or like issues quieting the mind, this can be very helpful as well. All right, Gemini, that is what I have for you. I hope that's supportive. Cancer, you are next. This is your Akashic Oracle reading. Please tune into your rising and or sun sign. All right, babe. I'm here with you. Let's see what we get. Lion's Mane, leadership. And here is the card. If you're listening to audio only, you want to check out the YouTube video for the cards. They're really beautiful. So card number 18, Lion's Mane, leadership, ruled by Mercury and Uranus. Okay, so let me tune in and see what we got. All right, this feels like you are being invited to step into a level of, so it talks about leadership, but the way that I'm getting it is more like stewardship of a movement, of maybe a community, stewardship of something that is like where you are going to hold the vision and the, like I just see sort of the plan Like it's coming together for you. So it's using both your intuitive faculties as a highly sensitive water sign, but then also your mercurial mental faculties with that lion's mane brain. Like just think like the brain and like the little hairs, the pelos that are coming out, that are extending to the level of divine consciousness, we'll say. So like plugging into and also the collective field in mind. And so being almost like your brain being a bridge. I'm also being shown the pineal and pituitary here working together as part of this greater function. So it's working with the mental faculties of like, you know, the strategy, the planning, the analyzing, the putting pieces together, but that's not what's leading. So in this leadership, that lion's mane is the heart. So that lion piece connected with the heart and that heart mind, that they are not separate. Like in fact, I talk about our original way of being is the magical mind. And that's what I'm getting is this. I mean, Mercury is also the magician. There's something in Uranus, Uranian is like, that's that energy that's just like downloads, awakening. And so it's remembering the bridge between the mind and the heart and bringing those together in activation as part of your leadership. That's what it is to be the leader, is to be that embodied expression of like these faculties, I'll call them. And through that being the channel. I mean, Mercury as the magician is also the channel. So there's something here around that sensitivity of the waters moving up to the heart, and then this energy coming down, moving and meeting at the heart, this mind-heart space. And that it's not about stepping forward into leadership in an egoic kind of way. It's almost like through the embodiment of this bridge consciousness, that's where you're going to access the levels of information and insights that are going to be the most supportive for those that you serve or that you lead or that are part of your family or your community or your group, your loved ones, and to allow you to anchor into that, like stepping tall and with conviction in like taking your seat at the throne, so to speak, but it's not in a hierarchical way. It's not like others are not on the throne either. You have your role. But there is something here around embodying that. So people want to work with you, to listen to you, to follow you, but to also play with you, right? Collaborate with you. It's a synergistic, synarchy kind of leadership. So it's a role that you're playing as a channel, ultimately, and not as a, it's sovereignty as it relates to like you're meeting people sovereign to sovereign. Everyone is sovereign, but. So you are like the sovereign leader and king, queen of your own life, but you can meet others and support them and collaborate with them, meeting them sovereign to sovereign. So again, there's no like hierarchy here, but you are bringing in something. You're being called to step up. Maybe it might feel a little bit uncomfortable because you're so used to, Cancer, like you're so used to just like nurturing others, right? It's not, even though you're a cardinal sign, so you're going to like do the thing, start the thing, take the action, but you don't necessarily position yourself as the center of the stage, as like in the spotlight or like, taking the mic. And that's a much more like Leo kind of thing. And I think that's where that lion energy is coming through. But again, it's like through that heart mind. So any way that that's showing up for you in your life, I encourage you to accept it, to flow with it, to anytime you start to feel imposter syndrome or their voices, of like, who do you think you are? Or like, this is too much responsibility, or I don't want this visibility or the spotlight or the pressure or the responsibility. Just take a moment, bring in that self-care. The Jupiter in Cancer is journeying through your sign, and say, well, what if I do this in a way that is aligned with my values and how I would like to be led, or how I would like to commune with someone with leadership qualities. So that's what I have to say for you. I'm excited, Cancer, for working with lion's mane, and maybe even literally work with lion's mane. There's some really beautiful products out there of like powdered dried lion's mane that you can add to your foods and your drinks. So that might be supportive for you as well. Leo, you are next. We are doing our Akashic Oracle reading for your rising and or sun sign. And we have Mandrake. And if you're watching or listening to the audio only, I encourage you to take a look at the YouTube video for the beautiful image and photo of this card. It's card number 45, Mandrake, and it is sensuality. Sensuality is the keynote word. And here the rulers being Venus and Neptune. So interestingly, that came up for another sign, similar qualities here, but like this Venus, Neptune, that's always to me like a signature for the artist, and like especially in visual artistry and like photography, painting, also ceramics, things like that. But it's like there's something here also in connection with the astrology with Venus coming into this square. So Venus is squaring Neptune and Saturn. But here Neptune is being highlighted versus the Saturn. And maybe because I've talked so much about Neptune has come up quite a bit in these sign readings already. So I'm wondering I talked a lot about Saturn, and now, we're coming in like, okay, well, Neptune wants to be talked about a little bit too. And like some of the energies here in connection with that. So let me tune in for your sign, Leo, and see what comes through. This is a time of deep, deep creativity for you. I mean, I talk about artistry, right? The signature of Venus and Neptune, and just like the aesthetics, the visuals, but also like it's about that sensuality piece, that connection with joy and pleasure through the senses, and that sensuality, that eros energy, that life force energy, but moving through in a really beautiful, harmonious way. There's something here that you are to bring to the world, and to whether it's for others or simply for yourself, there is something that is really potent that wants to be created and birthed, but through your felt experience. And so it's almost like you got to feel yourself. You got to feel it first before it comes through, And it's similar to the way that I'm seeing it. I don't know if you've ever had this experience, Leo, maybe you have because you're Leo, let's be real here, but like where you pump yourself up and like you put on some clothes that just make you feel like, yes, I'm feeling myself. Let's effing go, right? That's what this feels like. It's like maybe it is with clothes, maybe it's just with experiences, but it feels something that is of the body and like sensual. So it could be even, maybe baths, or like the material you choose to wear, or the colors that you surround yourself with, or maybe it is in engaging in artwork and creative work. There's something here around tapping into that eros energy through your body, through your senses and experience, so that those creative expressions and works of art, in whatever form that they are in. And I'm hearing also for some of you, it's in the form of children. So there's that, if you're like looking to get pregnant here. That just came through on left side. So, but it's about feeling it first. It's almost like feel it before you see it. You know, when we say like believe it before you see it, and in terms of manifestation, this is about feel it. Feel it. You are part of the creation. You as the vessel, as the artist. It's moving through you. It's almost like the way that I see is like this clay, these creation myths where God takes the earth and the stars and like makes these people out of clay. And that's like the creation story of humans. There's something here around like that, the truth in that myth, in that we ourselves are part of this creation. And when a work of art, whether that's a book, a business, an offering, a child, a service, like artwork in general, when it moves through you, I'm hearing also music for some of you. When it moves through you, it's picking up, it's moving through your unique filter and channel. It's picking up your flavors and your energy, your patterns, your frequency. And that is a sacred part of this creation process. And when you can allow yourself that space to feel it when it's happening, my oh my, I just feel the potency of what you create will be felt far and wide in a way that you're going to be like, no strategy is going to touch it. Like in terms of, let's say it is a body of work or creation, like a creative act of art, an artistic expression, and you want to get it out there. And, so we think like, oh, well, the strategies, the marketing and all of that, what do I need to do that? Of course, yeah, there's that. But this, what I'm talking about, like this energetic signature and that piece and feeling it, that's the magic sauce. That's the magic sauce. So do not skip it. I don't know what that looks like for you, but play with it, experiment, make it fun and juicy. I love this for you. So enjoy. Virgo, you are next. Okay, this is your Akashic Oracle reading. Tune in for your rising and or sun sign. And Virgo, you have cannabis, detachment. Okay, so this is card number 31. If you're listening to the audio podcast only, you can tune into the YouTube and the timestamps for your card for the visual. So there it is. Take a screenshot. All right, cannabis detachment ruled by Neptune once again and Saturn. Okay, so if you tuned into the rest of the podcast, you know this is a theme, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, and here it is, baby. Here it is. So much to say. Neptune is like coming in loud and hot with all of these readings, really. But for you, let me tune in and see what wants to be said. One of the things that is also coming through, we have, as you know very well, the South Node in Virgo. And South Node really being about release and letting go. And so this detachment piece and cannabis coming through with detachment, what cannabis does in the highest expression and form of this plant ally when communing in a ceremonial way is it allows one to healthily detach, so detach in a healthy way from the mental chatter and the mind and the body in a way that allows you to connect deeper with truths. Because Virgo, let's be real, you can get hung up on some stuff mentally, right? And like sometimes through anxiety. And sometimes there can be an element of that I talked about like the overwork and the overgiving in the form of like devotion. Not that it's performative devotion, but almost like disguised as devotion, where there's something here around we're not doing that anymore. Something is, you are letting go of something. And cannabis, whether you like work with cannabis or not, like connecting with that energy and the consciousness of the plant and this energy of detachment, being supported by Saturn and Neptune, that is the illusion dissolving. I mean, go back to the beginning and listen to my Saturn-Neptune talk. But there's something here that in support of this process that you have been in with this South Node energy, riding through your sign, you might be experiencing like a release of something, but also I'm getting like another person. Like I feel you almost like you're in a parallel, you're in a relationship. There's somebody else here. And you're in one lane and this other person is in the other lane. It's not that like you aren't working together or anything. I'm just getting like they're going through their shit and you have been moving through your shit already. And so sometimes we have the tendency, I say we because I also put myself in this category, but I'm talking to you, Virgo, to like latch on or maybe like hyper focus or like want the thing to work, like a part of that anxious kind of like holding on and grasping energy. And so like if you feel that, whether it's, you're grasping onto a timeline or a vision or a hope or a dream or like, something that you want to happen. This lunation, we're talking all about like it's about letting go of attachment to outcome. And that this energy is here to support you in doing that because it allows you to shift out of that mental state with it that very much we experience through the body and to be in this sort of liminal space where you can access those higher faculties and that Neptunian dissolution of the boundaries so that you can connect with these forces and the truths that are here that maybe when like you're more siloed in your own, I'm just getting like this like mental bubble, like body bubble, that's a little bit harder to tap into or connect with. Like I feel you connected with it, but then I also feel a little bit of resistance or like falling back into the like, but I need it to be like, so it's just like chilling out a little bit with this energy. So one thing that I'm hearing is cannabis juice. So I don't know if that is available to you or if that's something that you're interested in, but like fresh cannabis juice is what I'm getting. And then connecting with that, with the energy. It's not necessarily like consuming cannabis here. Okay. And if you have a relationship with cannabis, like also looking at how are you using and working with cannabis in the highest way. Because this feels definitely more ceremonial for you. I hope that's helpful and insightful for you, Virgo. Libra, you are next, my darling. Akashic Oracle reading for you Tune into your rising and or sun sign. Let's see what we got. Lavender Weaver. So there is the card visual for you. If you're tuning into the audio only podcast, I encourage you to go over to YouTube to check the timestamps and get a screenshot. So that is card number 20, Lavender, ruled by Mercury. And the keynote word is Weaver. Weaver. Okay, so let's go ahead and tune in for you. This one feels like lavender and this weaver energy is speaking to your subconscious belief systems, the architecture. I talked about a little bit, these identities that we have that are kind of running the show in our subconscious. And what I'm getting here is lavender is this beautiful aromatic nervine that helps to calm the mind, but not in a totally sedative way. So it allows you to play in a healthy way in the mental realms, but like from a more relaxed and expansive kind of way. Very airy here, which for your sign feels good. And you're weaving in those mental realms, but it's in the unseen. So it's not in the conscious, it's in the unconscious. It's the subconscious. So what are you weaving? You're reweaving beliefs, identities. It's plugging into, maybe I'm getting also higher wisdom and knowledge, education. So maybe there's like a learning component here, which is part of this weaving. But it also feels like very deep work that is like in the depths of your unconscious, in those root systems of the architecture of your reality. And so it feels like Mercury currently in Sagittarius, really wanting to seek truth, the higher wisdom and knowledge that makes sense here for you as well. And yes, communication as such, like communication does feel like maybe writing, expressing yourself too, but it feels, it's not about an external expression or like for others. This really feels like an internal process for you. So any way that you can engage in that kind of work, if you're feeling called to like an intuitive approach with this, then come on over and step inside Bloom, because we're about to dive deep into all of that in January. But anything that, like, for example, belief work, hypnosis, any kind of like even energetically story, like restoring, maybe journaling too. There's something here about like getting to the roots and just sort of rewriting the story, reweaving. And that you can work with lavender. I'm getting the essential oil because I feel like one drop, just like super gentle, one drop in a bath, or just like a quick sniff. I'm also getting a lavender milk drink. So whether that's actual dairy milk or like a coconut milk or an almond milk, but there's something here with a milky lavender drink that I'm getting for you. That sounds delicious. I want some of that. But it feels like lavender is here to support you in the reweaving is what I'm getting at. And so any way that you can work with lavender and within those realms is going to be highly supportive for you in this time. And I hope that helps. Let us know in the comments. I'd love to hear feedback. All right, Scorpio, you are next, my dear. We're doing an Akashic Oracle reading. Tune into your rising and or sun sign. Let's see what you got going on. Angel's trumpet. Death. Of course. Of course, Scorpio. Look at you. Always coming back with the sacred teachings of death. Okay, so if you're listening to the audio only podcast, I have it over this beautiful photo of Angel's Trumpet on the YouTube video. Check the timestamp. So here, card number 46, Angel's Trumpet, Death. This is ruled by Pluto and Mars. And hello, oh my gosh, this is just Aries. Tune into your fellow sister Aries. Very first one I did. Cat's Claw, Mars and Pluto. Rules your sign. Mars. Scorpio. Mars and Pluto. Rules your sign. So like, okay, here we go. What do we have for Scorpio today? Scorpio, there's something here around... Okay, so if I'm going to just drop some words here that maybe don't inherently feel connected to death, but I am getting worth, money, and like rewriting a story of like the story of your lineage or roots. There's something here around the patterns, the death. So where death comes in is Mars is wanting to cut away at things that are not serving you as it relates to worth, sense of worth, money, how that might manifest in your experience with money, money stories, value also. It's not like just about money because like, you know, there's a lot wrapped up with money. But there's something here around value, worth, and storylines of the family and lineage, maybe patterns, and also like generational wealth. But there's something here that in terms of the death, it's the death of these old stories that aren't serving you. There's a cutting away of the not self, of what is not you, what is ready to go. And Pluto coming in and like shifting and transforming so much for you as it relates to this. But like ultimately when I talk about money, I mean you're also on the financial axis with Taurus and Scorpio here. But ultimately it is about value, worth, exchange. I mean, this is what money ultimately is, right? It's just like a currency, a form of currency. So there's something here around like the reinvention tour is what I'm getting, you know, like Madonna's reinvention tour, where she basically like came through. I mean, she's always reinventing herself, I guess. But there's that reinvention tour where like there was a major shift and sort of like a celebration and a claiming of that. And I feel like that's what's going on with you on some level. So, but here it's like the focus feels like it's not so much in the creating or the getting or the doing, which Mars and Capricorn is going to do, you know, like you don't have to worry about that. But here it's like really honoring and creating the space for the death and the grieving that will come. Because even if it's something that you want, you're like, I'm so ready for that thing to go out. There's still going to be a shift in energy, and where like even on a cellular level, we're going to grieve something, especially when it's related to our lineage and our ancestry or familial line. So allowing the space for that, the entire death process. Can you be your own death doula of whatever it is that is dying? Intentionally creating space for that. You know, like I was just, it's so interesting. My sister, side story, My sister just sent me a reel. Maybe it's the Conan O'Brien's podcast, but I'm not so sure. It might be somebody else's podcast where he was a guest on. And but this was a clip where they were talking about, I forgot the other guy's name. But Conan O'Brien, like his father had died. And then his friend, this other comedian, like, you know, asked him how he was doing. And this was like 2 days after Conan O'Brien's father died. He said, you know, I blame Jason Bateman, another comedian actor. And then they like went off with it and like just took it to ridiculous levels where it was like, you know, then they blamed Jason Bateman like as like for offing his father. And then like, unfortunately, Conan O'Brien's mother died like, I think a couple days or a little bit after, like 2 weeks later, something crazy. And they kept the joke going that like, oh, you know, Jason Bateman got his mother too. Like, is it okay to give him, he's asking for your sister's address. And it was just like this so ridiculous form of grieving. Like, okay, there's this sort of avoidance a little bit, right? And kind of like darker comedian, you know, like, I don't know, way of grieving the death. But here's what I'm getting at. We all have different ways that we grieve, but we have to create space for the grieving because it will catch up to you. And I know you are not a stranger to death and to grieving. And so allowing yourself that space and that ability to allow the death doula version of you to doula these, whatever it is that you are releasing and that is dying away, to do so. And maybe even bring in some ceremony with that, you know, like lighting a candle, holding space, writing a letter. There's whatever ways you feel called to work with this and this moon. But that's what's coming up for you is really, it's like do what you already know how to do, know through the mind heart, not the mind, of that death doula process. And create intentional space for that because it feels like come next year, you're going to be moving. There's things that are moving, but we have to have this period of release in that death process. So I hope that's helpful for you. Sagittarius, this is your moon, and this is your Akashic Oracle reading. Tune into your sun and or rising. What do we have for us? I'm in here with you. All right. Damiana, card number 11, beloved. Beloved. So if you're tuning into the audio only podcast, I encourage you to tune into the YouTube. Check out the timestamps and get that screenshot of that beautiful card. Card number 11, Damiana, the beloved, ruled by Venus and Pluto. What a pair. Revolution in love. Who is the beloved, Sagittarius? There is something here with Damiana that is reminding you that the beloved that you in your heart of hearts desire to merge with, converge, you know, is that divine beloved, sort of the beloved that Rumi speaks of, right? These mystics of the divine. And it's through you, it's within you. And so what I'm getting here is that yes, it's a yes and. Yes, you may be experiencing a shift or a new kind of love in partnership. There is something here for some of you that it feels in connection with partnership and romantic partnership. Either a new love or a new story within an old love. But that's not the main story. That's not the main act. That's like, that feels like part 2. Part 1, or like that's act 3. This is act 1 and act 2, right? This is the main part of the main chunk, the foundation, is that it begins with you. It begins with you and being your own beloved. And that means embodying and channeling that divine beloved, God source creation through you, divine mother, father, sacred marriage within you. That is revolutionary love. Embodying it in such a way that it is undeniable, it is cellular, and it informs your very being and every relationship in your field. That's the work. And I just heard, it also, side note, there's also money here in connection, because love and money, connected, baby. So there's a side story having to do with money, but they're telling me this is not that we don't want to take too much focus away, but we just wanted to insert that for you, because reminding you of that connection. If you needed any even more incentive to connect in with that sacred beloved within your own being. So perhaps working with Damiana in some way, perhaps a Damiana flower essence, or I love making cordials with Damiana. I did one for my sister's wedding, or her bridal shower and bachelorette. And it's so yummy. There's something that imbibing Damiana in that kind of way, with the sweetness and like honey, it brings it into the body in a visceral and sensual way. And so I highly recommend working with either Damiana in that way, or just with placing your focus and your attention in that way. It feels very sensual. So this is both a spiritual and energetic process, but also a very deeply embodied sensual experience too. And we'll see what comes through. So hope that was supportive for you. Capricorn, you are next, my love. This is your Akashic Oracle reading. Tune into your sun and or rising sign. Let's see what we got for you. Milk thistle. Okay, if you're listening to the audio-only podcast, I encourage you to come over to YouTube, check out this beautiful card, screenshot it, find your timestamp. Card number 23, Milk Thistle, Peaceful Warrior. Ruled by Mars and the Moon. Love this for you. Right away, I'm getting Mars and Capricorn in your sign, and we're about to move into your season. So let me tune in and see what we got. It feels like this is in preparation of also this astrology that I was talking about that is to come. Everything's happening to your sign. We got Mars running through, then we're going to get the sun and the moon. So you got your moon here, right? Mars, and then we're going to get, obviously I mentioned sun, we're going to get Venus toward the holidays. So that this also feels very Venusian as well, even though Venus isn't quite there, but it's that Moon-Mars signature here. So what is this? This also, by the way, milk thistle is incredible for the liver. Speaking of liver, which was a theme that we touched on earlier in the episode. But this peaceful warrior, when we think Mars is that fiery warrior sign who can run amok. But in Capricorn, you ground that effing Mars, right? Mars loves being in your sign because he can get shit done. He could do things well. You bring structure and like strategy to Mars, but then I feel Venus is coming in and going to flank the sun. There's going to be this conjunction there in your sign, and that feels really significant for you. And that's what I feel like this is pointing to, is like that peaceful warrior energy of, oh, that's that like nourishment and healing balm for yourself. For I'm getting the inner child like baby. So here with milk thistle, it's also a galactagogues, which means that it can help enhance breast milk as a breastfeeding mother. And so there's something here about that nurturance, self-nurturance, giving your inner child, that inner baby, an infant, that milk, that nourishing food, life force, energy that is, and love through that nurturance. With Jupiter journeying through Cancer as well on the opposite side. So it's remembering that. It feels like that Jupiter Cancer is also pulling in, coming in and like holding you, witnessing you from the other side. And what that can do for that part of you that is like going the distance, that peaceful warrior that is like going for the thing, doing the thing, getting the thing. First, we need to nurture and support that baby, that inner child, and the divine creation that you are, so that you feel safe enough, so that you feel your nervous system is regulated enough, so that there's like, rather than the sort of Saturnian kind of, like that hardship energy, that more malefic kind of side of Saturn, that energy applying to Mars. Here we have more of the Venusian and the lunar aspects applying to Mars here. And so almost like going side by side next to that sort of warriorship, but holding each other's hands is what I'm seeing, like the divine mother, divine father, and the divine child, all within you. What this means in your life, I don't know. This is really big stuff, but it does feel like you are supporting yourself, reparenting yourself, nurturing yourself in a way that is like so profound. Allow yourself to do that this month, moving into January, because something is going to move from this. Something is going to be birthed from this. And I'm excited to hear what it is. So let us know in the comments if this was supportive for you. Aquarius. This is your Akashic Oracle reading. Please tune into your sun and or rising sign. And let's see what we got for you. Ashwagandha, purpose. Whew, beautiful. So if you're tuning into the audio-only podcast, I recommend you tune into YouTube, check out your timestamp, and this beautiful card. Okay, card number 54, Ashwagandha, purpose. And this is the North Node and the Moon. Of course, you get this, Aquarius. Look at that. That's that alchemical vessel with the sun and the moon. Divine father and mother energies. And here we have all the sacred symbols for the chakras, the rainbow bridge. Okay, so let me tune in and see what we got. Ashwagandha is the perfect ally and guide here on all levels, physically, for sure, as well as mentally, emotionally, and spiritually for this particular lunation. And I had mentioned, if you skipped it, I encourage you to go back and just tune into the energetics of this lunation, because it feels like there's quite some pressure here. There's like stamina that's required. There might be exhaustion. And I feel like ashwagandha is the remedy for that. it helps assist us to, through a calm stability. So like there's this stabilizing force and calmness with ashwagandha, but it also gives us this life force energy. So this smell of horses is connected with ashwagandha in Sanskrit. And so it's like that vitality. And so speaking of horse, that is the Sagittarian moon, Sagittarius, supporting you in your Aquarian body in this way, in this time, as you move through whatever it is that you're moving through. But ultimately, and like Pluto moving through your sign as well, it's ultimately, this is part of your quest. This is the quest for higher purpose, higher knowledge, higher learning, higher calling. Your calling, aligning with your calling, and that ashwagandha is connected in with that calling and purpose. There's something here in connection with, again, supporting your body in that like very real, tangible way. Your electric body. I feel like Aquarius there can be a sensitivity to that may impact your electrical body. And so the minerals, for example, is really important. Frequency is incredibly important. But something that is very both grounding and yet also supporting your expansion is this energy of ashwagandha. But ultimately, that allows you to anchor even more deeply into your purpose and this journey along the path of your dharma, so to speak, the dharma that is here for you to experience. And so I also see like timelines. So taking what you have received, this could be kind of the nodal piece, but taking what you have been journeying with, where you're moving toward, and that sort of expansion quality, what you are leaving behind, and yet taking with you all the gifts from previous lives, from previous experiences, fully integrating and embodying them, and allowing the fullness of that version of you to guide you forward. So working with ashwagandha can help assist almost like in that integration process and the support for your electrical body and mind. There's also something like with the stamina to continue to move forward. Because I feel like 2026 for you, there's going to be some key shifts. It may not fully look like a complete overhaul of your work or your career, although that may happen. But it's like, the micro shifts and tweaks that are like gold, that make all the difference, that makes perhaps one situation and version of like the work or your experience of it, I'm like, I hate this. Like, I don't want to do this anymore, to like implementing these micro shifts. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this feels really good, actually. Whoa, I didn't know it could feel this way. I didn't know I could experience it this way. That's what it feels like this shift is. And that's part of the dharma. It's like bringing your whole self on board. But in order to do that, you got to take care of the body and, and supporting yourself in that endurance, that stamina. Because I feel like you went through like a lot of freaking stress. There's been stress testing all over the place here for you, Aquarius. And so I'm getting like, that isn't necessarily going to stop. It's not that it's going to amplify or get like super intense more than it already has, but it's, I'm just going to say it's not like all of a sudden everything is going to get 1,000% better and you're not going to experience some of the remnants from the stress that you were experiencing before. It feels like it is a process. Not that it can't go faster or that it's not possible to have a version that's just like, wee. But what I'm getting is like right now, what I'm tuning into is like, it's a process. And so what can you do to help yourself while you are in it? Like, I just kind of feel like you're like almost like in, not mud, because it's not so sticky and hard to move through, but it was like just like squishy, like watery kind of land that you're like, it's a little, I can't like sprint through this. So what am I going to do to support myself while I'm in this phase until I can get out of that? So whatever that looks like in whatever area of your life, bring in that support. Maybe it's literally bringing in ashwagandha. Powdered version can be really beautiful to mix in, like with a morning drink. I highly recommend Banyan Botanicals. They're one of my favorite companies when it comes to Ayurvedic remedies. And you can also tune into they have a dosha quiz, I believe, to tune into your constitution. So if you feel called to work with ashwagandha, that's one resource for you. But it's an alchemical process. It's an internal alchemical process. And so this ain't little work. It's big work. And I'm excited for you. So I hope that was helpful. All right, Pisces, we are tuning into your sign, Akashic Oracle reading for your sun and or rising. Please tune in to either one of those. And we have nettle action. So if you're listening to audio only, I recommend you tune into the video on YouTube. Check out your timestamp because there's a beautiful image with this card. Okay, so card number 21, nettle action, ruled by Mars and Pluto. Mars and Pluto has come up 3 times today, so for 3 different signs. And Neptune has also come up a bunch. So these are big energies here that are wanting our attention. Let's tune in to see what it wants to say through your sign, Pisces. There's been so much going on in your sign, Pisces, that it feels like so much of this restructuring. And as we have Saturn and Neptune moving through, we got the nodal stuff going on for you. It's a major restructuring. But where Mars and Pluto come in, it feels connected with an upgrade of the hopes and dreams, an upgrade of the vision, an upgrade of this, like even as it relates to your work, your career, influence, networks. There's something here around how all of the restructuring and the work that you have been doing or that's been working on you, let's be real, is also like recalibrating, reconfiguring these other areas. Of course it does. It has to, right? Because as you shift internally and it's working on you, it's recalibrating you. And so you are tapping into this more aligned, higher version of the vision, of the dream, of the mission, of the work, of both the collective dream and your individual dream. And so it's like, there's something here, this refinement process that's happening with nettle, this action energy that like spices things up. With Mars and Capricorn, it feels like, okay, now I can do something with all of this energy. Like the dissolution, there's been so much breakdown, restructuring. And maybe even now it still feels like okay, I've been doing stuff. I got something going on. I got things moving, but I know that there's like more. The vision is coming through. It's almost like I just have like Like here, this is just like the like the tip of the iceberg of the vision, the dream that has been restructuring beneath what we can see under the ocean. And that now it's going to start to emerge. And we're going to see this beautiful mountain. We're going to see what it actually looks like now. And you're going to be able to traverse and to move, take movement and action. Like, whoo, we're going, baby. Okay, so I feel that for you. I feel that like really coming through. Like I'm hearing middle of next year is like, there's something that Mars energy, that action energy. So right now, like when it pertains to right now, it feels like, yeah, take the steps, start taking the action. Even if it feels like I'm still moving through that inner work. Like stuff is still going on deep inside, or like, whoo, you're still in it. Don't be afraid to do the thing. Don't be afraid to take the action before you feel 100% ready, because you're not going to feel 100% ready. You're not going to feel 100% ready. I heard that some of you are. Okay. All right. Some of you are going to feel 110% ready because you've been through this. A lot of you are not. Can you allow yourself to feel 65% ready and do the thing? 65, 70 maybe % ready, and do it anyway. Because that action is like the flywheel. It's going to help to get things moving for the momentum for what is what is going to come next year, in the middle of next year. Yeah, and this feels more like a personal revolution. A revolutionary act that is more internal, that then expresses outward and that gets to touch people because of what you bring forward and the actions that you take. So feels very vital, feels very exciting, that revolutionary energy for sure. And if you feel called to work with nettle, it's also, I forgot, I talk about all these beautiful plant allies and I forget which moon musing I spoke of nettle, but nettle is one of these like really beautiful, nourishing, nutritive herbs that are also very regulating. Like nettle meets you where you're at. It can be drying if you have a drier constitution, so just watch out for that. Maybe bringing in a little bit more moistening herbs with that. But nettle is so good for the blood, for revitalizing of energy. And even though there's like fire with nettle, it can also help to regulate the heat and any inflammation internally. So working with nettle is really beautiful and can be highly supportive for you as you step into action, for sure, in this time. So I hope that is supportive for you. And that is it for our Akashic Oracle readings for all signs. Please let me know how you liked these, how they landed, what's resonating, what's not. Throw it in the comments below. Like and subscribe if this is supportive for you. That really helps me out and the algorithm on YouTube. And join us inside of Bloom. I'm so excited to announce pretty soon what we got going on starting in January. It's going to be a highly supportive, intuitive clarity sadhana style experience for my healers. So come on in. The party's already started. And if you want support, join in today because we got our live Akashic monthly Q&A that you will be plugged right into. So I'm looking forward to meeting you on the inside, sending all my love, big blessings, abrazos, besos, and until next time, be well.